Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be exploring some cursed movie sets, and I'm gonna kind of go over why they're supposedly cursed, and then I'm going to tell you my opinion on whether or not I think they're cursed. Let's jump right into it. So starting off strong, we have one of the most cursed movie sets, one of the most iconic ones is Poltergeist. So if you haven't seen the film, Poltergeist is essentially about a family who starts to experience extreme paranormal activity in their house, and a lot of crazy stuff happens, but mainly the daughter is targeted in this film. This is a classic ghost story, but it is alleged that this set was actually very cursed. Now, the reason being for this was that multiple cast members ended up dying after the film's release from both Poltergeist 1 and Poltergeist 2, so they believe that somehow the movie set had caused their deaths. So the first one of these deaths is really tragic, really sad. It's Carol Ann from the movie, the little girl, you know, the iconic blonde girl who points at the TV and says they're here. Yeah, that little girl, she unfortunately passed away because she was misdiagnosed as having one stomach condition, but she didn't actually have that stomach condition, and then she went into surgery to try to get rid of a bowel obstruction, and she ended up passing away during surgery because it was a very complex surgery. So that was the first death. And then we have the older sister from the first movie who was played by Dominique Dunne. This was also a very tragic death. She ended up being strangled by her then boyfriend John Sweeney, and she ended up passing away from her injuries. So those were the two deaths that occurred from the first film. And then we have two of the cast members that died in the sequel, Poltergeist 2, which was Julian Beck, who played the priest. He passed away from cancer. Then we also have Will Sampson, who played the shaman in the film, and he passed away from complications during a heart and lung transplant. So those two guys ended up passing away after the film's release, and then also the little girl and her sister passed away from the first Poltergeist. People believe that these deaths were caused from the supposed curse on the movie set. I think that these are honestly all coincidental because 3 of the cast members had died from medical complications, which realistically could happen to anyone. Those are pretty standard complications. Trying to get rid of a bowel obstruction and having abdominal surgery is extremely risky, as well as having a heart and lung transplant. And honestly, for an older gentleman to get cancer and pass away from it is really not unheard of. So I think that those 3 deaths seem realistic. I think the only death that's kind of crazy is Dominique Dunne from being strangled from her boyfriend. That's not super common, but I mean, it does happen. So I think that it was just an abusive relationship. So I don't know if a curse could really play into that, to be honest with you. I think that if they were more suspicious deaths, then perhaps, but yeah, I don't know if I truly believe that the deaths were caused from the curse. One of the more interesting facts on why people believe that this film is cursed, however, is because it is said that they used real human skeletons for the pool scene where there's a pool filled with skeletons. And this is because the special effects guy that worked on the film was talking about how realistic the skeletons looked, and then one of the cast members asked them oh, how'd you get it to look so real? And he was like, well, they were real. So people believe that they were real. And this is because apparently human skeletons are cheaper than making actual skeletons out of prop material, which is kind of sketchy. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's just an 80s thing. I don't know if modern day it's really that easy to obtain some bones. I don't know. But that is a very interesting tidbit. I think that that would cause a bit of bad energy using people's remains to film a horror film. I don't know. I mean, if people use my remains to film a horror film, I'd probably think that was cool. But I'm kind of a weirdo, so I don't know. I think it might have caused maybe a little bit of bad energy, but do I think overall that this movie set was cursed? I'm gonna go with no. And that's only because I think that all of this is kind of coincidental. I mean, there was a few actors on set who said that the set of Poltergeist 2 felt kind of haunted. But other than that, I think they're only using the deaths as a sign of a curse. But nobody else has said anything that suspicious to me. So I'm gonna go that I don't believe this set is cursed. Next up, we also have another classic horror film. This is The Exorcist. If you haven't seen The Exorcist, it's about a little girl named Regan who ends up getting possessed by a demon. So that's the whole premise of the film. This film is interesting because it's known as like one of the scariest films of all time, especially for when it had its release. A lot of people were having like warnings at movie theaters because so many people were like throwing up and leaving the theater, so they had to do like a graphic imagery warning, similar to Terrifier 3. I feel like that's the most recent example of this that I've seen, because I remember there was a warning on the theater for Terrifier 3 saying like, this is really graphic, you may not want to watch it. But in comparison, it's crazy to think about The Exorcist compared to Terrifier movies because it's just like so much less graphic. Like the stuff we have now is insane compared to back then, where stuff like The Exorcist was considered too graphic. Now, the reason people believe that this film was cursed was because stuff kept getting in the way of them actually filming the movie. So filming was delayed over and over and over again. The first major occurrence was there was a huge fire that broke out on set, specifically in like the Regan house. But the interesting part is the fire destroyed literally everything except for Regan's bed, which is weird. I don't really know how that occurred. Maybe there's a firefighter that's watching this video that could tell me how that would happen. But that's very suspicious to me. That's very odd. But I don't know. I feel like on-set fires are pretty common because of how much electrical stuff you're working with. So this might have just been like somebody forgot to turn something off and it started a fire. It's pretty easy to start a fire actually. So I don't know, this could be just coincidental in my brain. People really did believe that since Regan's bed survived, that somehow filming like possession scenes in the bed caused the whole like bedroom to be possessed, which I think is kind of silly, to be honest. I don't know if I believe in possession personally, or at least I hope it doesn't exist, but I'm leaning on the side of no. So I don't know if I believe that Regan's bedroom itself was possessed. And then afterwards, after the fire occurred, 2 of the cast members had their grandfathers die, which is a little unusual that their grandfathers died so closely together, but I don't know, old people died pretty frequently, so I don't think that's that bizarre. I think the weirdest thing about the deaths that occurred during the filming of this movie is that there was 9 people that were working on the film that died during filming. This makes me think that maybe this movie might be cursed because 9 people working on the same thing passing away is highly, highly unusual. Unlike Poltergeist, where only 4 of the cast members passed away. I don't know why I'm saying only, that's still like a large amount, but they died in like separate, like they weren't super close together. They didn't die during filming or anything. It was like years after the release. I really don't think the Poltergeist deaths are really suspicious, but the fact that 9 people died while filming this out of like cast and crew members is very, very bizarre. It didn't tell me what exactly all of them died from, so maybe it was just something weird, like they had chronic conditions before filming. But a part of me thinks that maybe instead of the movie set being cursed, it was like asbestos or something. I don't know. I think that sometimes if a large group of people die and they've been spending time in the same building together, that maybe it might be a building issue, like something odd, some sort of chemical, mold, I don't know. There's a lot of explanations for it, but I think that it is still extremely suspicious. There was also a lot of on-set injuries that multiple cast members experienced, including Regan herself, Linda Blair. She said that she has had chronic back pain ever since filming this movie because she had to do like a lot of like weird jerky moments like on the bed when she was getting possessed. So it kind of messed up her back forever, which really, really sucks. I know a couple of the other cast members also complained about back pain, but when you're doing crazy stunts like that, that's probably going to happen. I think that there was just a lot of strenuous things that they were having to do while filming. So that's not that suspicious to me. It's also similar to Poltergeist, where like a few of the cast members said it was haunted, but There's not really any examples of it being haunted. Linda Blair went on a documentary where she said herself that she didn't think that the actual movie set was cursed and that it was all coincidental. So, I mean, if she says that and she was actually on the film, I'm more likely to believe that maybe it wasn't cursed. But I think that sometimes when you're filming something, some bad energy can be attracted just from you having to get into like a certain dark mindset, similar to Heath Ledger when he was playing the Joker. I think that sometimes that mindset can mess with you and maybe things can appear cursed, but they're just more so coincidence. I'm honestly on the fence about this one on whether or not it's cursed. I'm gonna lean somewhere in the middle. It could be, it couldn't be. I don't know. I'm pretty neutral on this one. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think this one's cursed? Because I'm curious. I really can't form an opinion on this one. Okay, next up we have a movie that I for sure think is cursed, and you guys will understand when I tell you about it. So this film is The Omen, which is about a little boy named Damien who is actually the Antichrist. This movie is great birth control. If you're ever thinking if you want kids or not, watch The Omen. You'll probably never want them. But I love this movie. It's really, really good. They believe that this film was cursed because so many weird things occurred during the filming of this that I honestly don't even understand or have an explanation for. So let's get right into it. One of the accidents that actually occurred during the filming is Gregory Peck. He plays the dad in the film. He's like the big star of the movie. And he was flying over to London and his plane ended up being struck by lightning, which is not super common, I don't think. He ended up being okay, but the weird part about it is right afterwards, like only a week after, one of the producers, Maid Newfield, also got struck by lightning in a plane, which odd. But then it gets weirder. One of the writers, David Seltzer, also had this problem where his plane got struck by lightning, like literally a week after the producer Maid's plane got struck by lightning. And that's not the end of it. Harvey Bernhard, who was also a producer, also ended up having his plane nearly struck by lightning. So his plane didn't actually get struck by lightning, but it almost did, which I don't think anybody that worked on The Omen should ever be flying during a storm again, because it seems like they just attract lightning. I think that these occurrences are very, very strange. I really don't know how common it is for planes to get struck by lightning, but I can't imagine that happens very often because most pilots don't like to fly in those conditions. But I don't know. I don't know what to think about this one. This one might be coincidental, but it does seem a little strange to me that it happened to so many different people that worked on the movie. So maybe there was some bad juju going on. I'm not totally sure. So what ended up happening is because of all these different things, filming for The Omen ended up getting delayed. But the interesting part is Gregory Peck was supposed to be flown in a charter plane to go back to filming, but since filming got delayed, he didn't end up going in that plane. But the plane that he was supposed to be on ended up crashing and killing literally every person in the plane. But the strangest part about this is that it hit a car on the way down when it was crashing, and the car ended up being filled with the pilot's wife and the pilot's kids. And this plane crash ended up killing the whole family, which I don't even know the odds of that. I feel like you have a better chance of winning the lottery than something like that happening. I'm not even sure how that occurred. Like, was the plane landing, like, was the pilot's family like driving to meet the pilot's plane and they just happened to be in like a weird place where they can meet and crash? I don't know. That's very, very bizarre. And I think it's bizarre that Gregory Peck himself was supposed to be on that plane. I think that's very Final Destination. I think maybe Def wanted to come after Gregory Peck, which thank God they didn't those multiple times, but it's very bizarre that he himself had so many accidents and ended up being fine. So I guess Gregory Peck was meant to stay and film The Omen. Another thing that happened was there were a lot of animals that were on set. The animals themselves were like acting totally fine until they started to get more into filming, and suddenly the animals were becoming very, very aggressive. They were attacking cast and crew members. That could be a sign possibly of some evil spirits on set. I know that animals are really, really sensitive to that sort of thing, so perhaps they were picking up on something that maybe the human cast and crew weren't picking up on. But also, like, animals don't really want to spend their days filming movies, I don't think. So, I don't know. I think this one might be coincidental. I don't think I would want to spend my days filming a movie if I was that animal and having some trainer, like, tell me what to do all day. So, I think this was just a case of grumpy animals who really didn't want to film a movie, you know? It reminds me of the movie Nope, where they have, like, the chimpanzee attack and everything. That's kind of the vibe that I get from this scenario, so I don't really think it was paranormal, to be honest. Okay, so this is probably the strangest thing that happened in this entire sequence of cursed events, and this happened to John Richardson, who was a special effects artist on the film, and Liz Moore, who was his assistant. They were driving, and Liz and John ended up getting into a car crash. What ended up happening is Liz unfortunately got decapitated during the car crash, and John ended up miraculously surviving. And this is interesting because in the movie The Omen, the character Keith Jennings, and he ends up being decapitated by a sheet of glass from construction work. So this one's kind of weird to me because of the weird similarities between the crashes. It's very bizarre that a character in the movie gets decapitated and that people working on the movie also had something similar happening. But also car crashes are very, very frequent. I feel like decapitation is a little less common, so maybe that was the weirder aspect of this. But what makes this very, very, very strange, even stranger than what I could explain, is that it happened on Friday the 13th, and they were 66.6 kilometers away from the city of Omen, which is a city in the Netherlands. And this is where, I don't know, this kind of breaks my brain. I don't think that I could confidently say that this is just a coincidence because I don't know how to explain that. I don't think anyone can really explain that. I think that's very, very bizarre. I think that the city being the same name as the movie and just the 666 sort of stuff is very, very spooky. I'm not like religious really, but I don't know. There's something very weird there. I think that there was a lot of bad energy that was happening during this movie, perhaps. I don't know if it's on like a demonic possession sort of level. I don't really believe in demons like that. But I do believe that sometimes, once again, when you're filming something, if you're creating a lot of bad energy mentally, then sometimes you could kind of attract bad things to you. So that might be an explanation. But do I think this movie is cursed? I would say yes. I think that this is the most cursed film set pretty much out of all the cursed movie sets because so many bad things happened and a lot of them can kind of be explained away to coincidence, but to a point, you know? I feel like there's so many weird things that occur that I can't really explain all of them. And if I can't explain it, then I'm probably just gonna chalk it up to something mysterious and spooky was going on while filming. So I don't know. Let me know, do you guys think this one is cursed? Because this one's really weird. And if anybody has some explanations for maybe some of the things that occurred, then I would like to know, because I can't really explain some of those things. Finally, we have a very popular movie, which is more modern compared to the other ones on this list, and this is the film The Conjuring, which I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen, but it's about a family who moves into a new house, and it ends up being very, very haunted, and they get my favorite people. I'm kidding, they are not my favorite people, Ed and Lorraine Warren, to investigate. So this movie set was believed to be cursed mostly because most of the cast members believed that the set was haunted. And this was due to a couple of injuries on set and a couple of weird occurrences. Vera Farmiga, who plays the Rain in the movie, she said that she believed that the set was haunted because she kept waking up at witching hour every single night, which is weird, but not that weird, because I feel like most people have to pee at 3 a.m. I know that I do, and I don't think it's because some demon is possessing me to go pee. I think it's just like, I have a small bladder. I don't know. So this is kind of just whatever to me. And then she also said that she had a couple scratch marks on her thigh during filming, which once again, I feel like that's something that's very easy to do when you're just kind of sitting there mindlessly scratching. You know, sometimes you have an itch while you're sleeping and you scratch it and you wake up and you have like demon claw marks on your back. That doesn't mean a demon was scratching you. It just means that you were really itchy. I don't know. I just feel like those are kind of silly things. I don't think that they indicate that the set was haunted. I also have another cast member, Joey King, who played one of the younger daughters in the film. And what ended up happening to her is she kept getting mysterious bruising for no reason, even though she didn't have like any stunts in the film. But then she ended up getting diagnosed with a rare blood disorder, which is kind of weird because a bunch of people like on the set were saying like, oh, the blood disorder might have been because of the movie being cursed, which I don't think that has anything to do with it. I feel like it was just a coincidence and she just got diagnosed with a medical condition. But because she got diagnosed with a rare blood disorder, that explains away the unexplained bruises. So I think this was just a case of medical problems. I don't think that demons were like punching her or anything. I mean, I wasn't there on set, so I don't know for sure. But I'm pretty sure it was just a case of being bruised because blood disorders cause bruising. And then the director, James Wan, he ended up claiming that his dog was going crazy on set and was barking and being really aggressive and kind of just reacting to nothing, which I don't know. I mean, I think that that could be a sign that maybe there was a ghost on set perhaps, but also maybe his dog was just tired of having to be on set all the time. Like, once again, animals want to be running around in grass. Like, they don't want to be filming a movie for the most part or being like held up on a movie set, because like, where will they run and play? I'm sure he was probably like tied up on a leash, so I think he was just mad that he couldn't be a dog. He also claimed that there was weird gust of wind while filming. Once again, this is something that could be easily explained away. I mean, a gust of wind is not very suspicious. That happens all the time when you're outside. Sometimes when you don't even expect it. It could be a perfectly sunny, wonderful day and there'll be a weird gust of cold wind. Does that mean that there's a ghost outside all the time? No. It's just weather is unpredictable, so I think that these are just kind of silly examples. This is the one movie on this list where I'm like for sure 100% that it's not cursed. I'm not even sure that the set was really haunted. Perhaps. I do believe in ghosts, so I think there's always a possibility. But from the information I saw online and from the cast members, I don't really think it sounded that crazy on set, to be honest. And most of the cast members didn't have any sort of unusual experiences. So I don't know. I don't really think this one's cursed. I think it's probably the least cursed out of this entire list. I think that The Omen would be number one, and then we'd have The Exorcist, and then we'd have Poltergeist, and then at the very bottom we'd have The Conjuring. So that was my list of cursed movie sets. There's obviously more out there, but I thought that these ones were the most interesting. So let me know what you guys think about each movie set. Do you think that some of them were cursed? Do you think that some of them weren't? Let me know your opinions. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm trying to post more frequently. I'm trying to post more spooky videos because I know that those are really fun and I love watching those, and I know that you guys do. So turn on those post notifications if you want more spooky videos, and hopefully you guys enjoyed hearing about these. Bye guys.